Welcome to the webinar, Turning Digital Visibility and Trust into Tourism Bookings.
Thanks for joining us today for the webinar. I'm Paul Thewlis. I'm the marketing mentor, digital marketing mentor for the Victorian Tourism Digital Mentoring Program, which is being run by Tourism East and a couple of other regional tourism boards. Today, we're really going to be focusing on some of the learnings we've had from that program. I'm also founder of Web Intelligence, which is a digital marketing, web development and software development agency in Melbourne. We bring a fair bit of experience from that as well. So today's content is really going to, as I said, go through some of the learnings that we've had from working for probably 6 or 8 months now with various tourism companies across 3 different regions. And there's quite a few insights that we've got from related to that work. We also bring the experience of having worked on in the digital area since around 2009. I ran my first Google and Facebook ad campaigns back in 2009. So bring that long period of time doing that sort of work to the table. We're going to look at some of the patterns that we've seen across various companies. We're going to look at see where some of the gaps are, and we're going to look at some of the opportunities that arise from that. The 3-tier marketing framework. So really, one of the really common things I talk about with most clients is a short, medium, long-term framework. Now, a lot of people, are looking to rank highly on Google, and so that they can generate sales leads. Now, there tends to be a bit of an over-expectation about how quickly that occur, and that I would put that in the long-term basket. So you're looking at working on that for 12 to 24 months time frame to be able to generate income generating leads effectively. On the other hand, we've got the medium term bucket is where I place social media, and in that situation, many people give up a bit on social media if they don't get some immediate success out of that. And my view on that is that you need to see that as a sort of 6 to 12 months time frame where you're consistently working on it. And then there's some short-term things that are more likely to bring you some early wins. Google Ads potentially one of that, but there's a number of other strategies that can be adopted as well. So in developing a strategy, you sort of really need to have that short, medium, and long-term perspective, because it is foreign to a lot of people, and you really have sort of trust issues about whether it's going to actually happen. So if you get a bit of a time frame idea, then that's worthwhile doing. So where do most businesses get stuck? Well, probably the most important thing is that they're missing a strategy and a system. So they do a bit of this or they do a bit of that, they and do them individually. So they're not using a sort of a multi-channel approach, doing a number of different things at the same time, interlinking them, having a strategy for how that hangs together. And I really get that you struggle with that because you don't have the experience, and it's a big. The digital world's become very complex in the way it all hangs together. An important thing that I'll probably stress a few times during the presentation is the lack of measurement. So what's happening is that people are not measuring visitors to their website, so they really have little or no understanding about what's going on with their website. Inconsistency is important. It's it Marketing is just another one of the things that a business owner has to do. Maybe it's an assistant that's doing it, but they're often got other tasks to do. And so publishing content, for example, on social media becomes very inconsistent. And consistency is a really important part of actually building your brand on social media. A really big one is missing paid distribution. So really what happens is that we see happen a lot is that people put effort into creating content on social media, and to quite honest, in many cases, the only people who are seeing that content are friends and family, because they're the only ones that are interacting with the content. So you can spend a lot of time creating a lot of good content, and then actually no one's seeing it. And then in relation to SEO, it's a little bit of a hoping it might all work out sort of situation with SEO. So there needs to be a bit more strategic planning and monitoring on SEO to really get an outcome from SEO.
How the digital landscape is changing.
Okay, so I'm going to sort of start from the longer term stuff first, and probably move to some of the short term stuff as we move along. So something's changed in the last 6 months or so, perhaps a little bit longer. What we're seeing is businesses are reporting a drop in their traffic to their website. Even when, if they're measuring it, their Google rankings remain the same. And often we're seeing click-through rates to the website dropping of somewhere around about the 30% mark, even though the rankings are stable. And the cause of that is, of course, AI, and it's having a huge impact. And so what we're seeing is, firstly, around September, Google rolled out much more heavily their AI overviews. So, many of you will have experienced this already. You go to Google, you search on something, instead of getting the list of, top 10 listing of links to websites, you're getting an AI overview, and users are engaging with that AI overview. So you might have been ranking, let's say you're ranking number 2 or 3 or 4 on Google. Now what's happening is that you're still ranking number 2 or 3 or 4 on Google, but you're now down the page. People are engaging with the overviews. In addition to that, many people are doing particularly tourism type planning using AI chats, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and that is taking people away from Google, but it's also changing their behavior. So instead of us doing the simple searches on Google now and then going through and reviewing websites, their expectation now is that they can go to a chat and they can ask more broad questions and get more extensive answers. And so that's taking people away from our traditional visit the website, do the reading and that sort of thing. And then also along with that, Google has its own travel features that are again taking up space on the page. So your Google rankings just keep getting pushed further down the page. And so whilst you've done all the hard work on the SEO and you're getting your good rankings, then you're getting less visibility. So the old game was get a good Google ranking. The new game is be the source that the AI quotes and that humans click. So in a sense, what we're now talking about is not so much concentrating on getting people to the website, but in a sense, creating content that we're giving away to AI. So the AI is taking information from your website and telling people about that through the AI platform, and then hopefully people may link through to your website and get further information. So we really have to acknowledge that some of that general informational traffic is probably gone for good. But what we need to do is to make sure that we're going to be visible on AI. So AI visibility is a really is the sort of probably new buzzword in a sense. So that doesn't mean we give up on Google rankings. We still need to work on Google rankings, but AI visibility becomes an important part of this.
Common issues and opportunities.
So one of the things we do when working with people is to really look at their ranking of their website on Google and what are they ranking for. And what we find is that for most websites, the visits to the website are dominated by brand traffic. So it's people who already know you and they are searching your brand rather than searching a more general sort of search, in the sense that they don't know who they're going to go to. They're just looking for a general search of accommodation in the Yarra Valley, for example. So that means that if that's the case, then people already know your brand. They've found out about you from somewhere other than just searching on Google. And we hear commonly sort of people saying, you ask them, oh, where does your traffic to your website come from? And they say, oh, it comes from Google. And the assumption there is that people are doing more generic searches and finding you on Google. However, what's more likely happening is that people see you, for example, they would maybe see you on social media, they see your brand, they don't really take much action at that point, but now they're in a point in their life where they want to book in some experience or accommodation, and then how do they do that? They go to Google and they search you by your brand because they already know you. So it's a multi-channel sort of situation where you want to be making sure that you've got brand awareness, so that when people are looking to find you, they find you on Google. So what we then are looking at is this, with some businesses, is a strategy of saying, well, how can we actually improve our visibility by ranking better for some of those more generic terms rather than just their brand? I mean, you want to keep the brand going, that's important. So what we do is a keyword analysis, and that is looking at what people are searching on Google and looking for search terms, keywords on Google that are highly relevant, that have a high frequency of use, but have a low difficulty score of getting just that you can get to the top of the search engine. Now, that means that you've got to do some work on thinking about it from the user's perspective. Why are they using a particular search term? And then prioritize which of those keywords you go to target, and then create largely a content strategy around that to enable you to rise up through the Google rankings. And that is coming back to the chatbot things. Being higher ranking on Google is going to give you some assistance with the AI visibility side of things as well. In terms of visibility, the other sort of glaring issue is that for many businesses, they have no analytics on their website. Now, a website analytics is the analogy I have is of a shopkeeper standing in their shop, watching people walk up to the window, browse in the window. They may walk on, they may come into the shop. They come into the shop, what do they look at first? What do they look at last? What do we need to put on the counter where they're buying, that sort of thing. A shopkeeper will have eyes on that and be able to work that out. Well, Google Analytics on your website is the same sort of thing in the digital world. We want to know where people are coming from. We want to know what they do when they get to the website. We want to know what action they take. We want to experiment a bit about how we can improve that. Now, the other widespread gap that we have is in the tourism industry is most businesses have some form of online booking capability now. But those booking systems are almost invariably not on the website. They're on a third-party website. Now, that's a really good way to go from cost efficiency point of view. You get access to great functionality. But a lot of the time, or most times, people are not tracking their analytics from people going from the website to the booking system. So what we see then is that if we're looking at the analytics of a website, that people come to the website and then they click across to the booking system, and that's the last that you know about them, because they've now gone to another website and there's no information about them. So you don't know what the booking rate is from people coming from particular sources. So if they come from Google, they come from social, what's the percentage of those people who click onto the booking button that actually end up booking? So, what the solution to that is a thing called cross-domain tracking. And it's a little technical the way it's set up, but essentially what happens is the analytics gets handed over from your website to the booking system, and so the booking system is now perceived as being part of the website, and you can get much better understanding of source of the visitor website and your bookings. So this is an important thing, and I encourage everybody to talk to their booking system provider to see if they can help you with setting up your cross-domain tracking. So just moving on then to social media. Sorry, just having a look at a note here. Okay. So with social media, there are a few things that we're observing. One, as I've mentioned already, is consistency. It's really important with social media to maintain a level of consistency. Now, what you hear a lot of protagonists for social media will say, oh, you need to publish 2 or 3 times a week and, get that sort of content. Now, that's, in my view, for most small businesses, impractical and unnecessary. The reason that someone who's posting that frequently or more frequently is more like trying to be a social media influencer. They're trying to use their organic content to raise them up to get a lot of followers. And that's okay if you're an individual and you're into it and you want to spend that time doing creating content. But most business operators aren't into it. And it's also, from a commercial point of view, very difficult to keep generating idea after idea that's going to be entertaining. So it's people are not on social media to be sold to, although a lot of them are being sold to, but they're looking there for some form of entertainment. So having that sort of level of entertainment becomes very, very difficult to maintain. So really the important thing about consistency is to keep a frequency that is sustainable for you. So if that's 1 post a month, then that's fine. Do 1 post a month. If it's 1 post a week, do 1 post a week, that type of thing. But you don't want to sort of go, oh, let's get into it, and then you do a whole bunch of posts and for a couple of weeks, and then you just get exhausted by it and you stop doing it. You want to keep the consistency going. The next thing about social media is that social media is all about faces and stories. we find consistently that when there's a person's face in the video, image content, then we get much more engagement from social media users. And then we want to tell the stories. So people want to entertain, they want to be engaged with the story. So it's really important, and I'll elaborate on this a little bit later on, about getting your stories together and being able to tell those stories and have someone up front, basically, doing the storytelling. And for most people, that tends to be very confronting and about getting in front of the camera. I was actually talking to a videographer over the weekend, and he's trying to get into doing some social media content for himself. And he was finding it really difficult to be in front of the camera rather than behind the camera. So even people who are in that sort of video area find it difficult. So the next thing is budget. And I've said earlier on that organic social is just not going to get you where you need to go. You need to use paid social media. The reason for that is really twofold. One is you're just not going to get in front of enough people if you're trying to do it organically, or if you do, it's going to take you quite a long time to actually build up some sort of audience, and a lot of content work, a lot of hours involved in that. So that's the first part. The second part is that organically, you don't really have that much control about who those people are going to be that are actually seeing your content, whereas paid distribution of social media gives you the opportunity to do target audiences. And what I encourage people to do is to think about the target audience, create content that matches the target audience, and then you'll get a lot better impact from your social media. So, and then the next point I've got here about Goldilocks videos and user-generated video content. So the traditional thing is from videographers is to have some beautifully crafted piece of video work that scans across the mountainside and has the lovely clouds and the sunrise and all that sort of stuff. Looks beautiful, but it doesn't really get you very far on social media because it can look a bit too corporate. What you're looking for is the sort of Goldilocks space where it looks like you've just pulled out your mobile phone to take a bit of content and publish that. So it's genuine, it's real, it's sort of more trusted. In reality, you need a little bit of that, but you also don't want to make it too crappy as well, because people won't take much notice of that. So you want to find a nice happy medium between something that looks nice but looks like it's just off a bit more off the cuff and natural, and then user generated video is a really important thing to do. And in the tourism industry, we're often dealing with very visual. It's a very visual industry. So as business owners, what we're looking to do is to encourage users to actually create their own content and post their own content so it goes to their friends and followers and that sort of thing. And it's about giving them the idea to do that. Some people will just do it naturally. Other people are capable of doing it, but they just don't think about it. So there's a process you need to do to encourage people to actually to create and share that content. Then mining your email list and remarketing. So a lot of most businesses have some sort of email list, particularly more established businesses that are new startups. So it's a little bit more difficult, but not. There are quite a lot that are not using that list for remarketing. So that list remarketing is about actually using an email system to make regular communication with people who have who are on your email list. Yes, may have visited you, and then you've had a sale from them, I suppose. But you want to encourage word of mouth. You want to give them ideas about how they can come back and stay again, experience again. And what you want to be looking to do is to try and segment that market. So you're looking for different segments in the market, and then creating stories, creating information that is going to engage with those particular segments and get them to convert and come back. In the email area, also, you're looking to do follow-up sequences. So, one way to do it is to send a broadcast to a whole list, but more sort of sophistication in email marketing these days is to do a series of sequences. So people take certain actions, and then you have a program set of follow-ups that go out. So, for example, you might have a business that has more than one service line. So people might book in, but you might have a restaurant. So you have an email that goes out when people book in to make sure that they're aware that you can book in at the restaurant. With those email lists that you can upload those to Meta, Facebook and Instagram, and to Google, and create custom audiences. So those audiences allow you to communicate with Facebook and Instagram or YouTube back to those people who you've already had contact with. Now, you can do that with email lists. You can also put a remarketing pixel on your website for both Facebook and Google, which tags people's browsers to tell them that you've been to their website. And then you can use Facebook and Instagram and Google to put content in front of those people. So you've got them to the website the first time. What you want to do is make sure that you touch them until they make that sale. And most of you probably would have experienced that sort of situation before, where you've been to a website and suddenly in your social media you're getting lots of ads for that particular website that you've been to. And then getting people to the website's one thing, converting them is another. So I think one of the things that is missing often is that websites aren't telling the unique story. Invariably, I talk to a business owner and I get a different story about the business than I do from the website. And it's important to, I think, have to capture those conversations with the business owner and convert that into the website experience. People should be able to come to your website and scroll relatively quickly down the homepage, and at the end of the homepage be able to give you a sort of quick summary of what you're offering. I sort of see that homepage as like the executive summary, and then you want them to go further into the website if it needs be to get further information. But you need to say what's unique about you versus other experiences in the area, and what's unique about you versus experiences in another location. And that's really comes down to that scannability comes down to having some visual storytelling, not keeping words sort of relatively succinct, but still having good explanations, having something where people can scan easily through without having to do the hard yakka of going into the website, reading a lot of content, that sort of thing. So the ease by which they can get the story. We're also need dedicated landing pages for particular audiences. So if you're trying to target a specific demographic, let's say you're trying to target 50 to 65-year-olds, your service is generally applicable to you know, all age groups, but you've got the particular experience that you're wanting to promote to people, then the homepage is a bit of a general sort of place to cover all the things that you want to tell people about. But the specific landing pages with specific messages about specific campaigns and opportunities are important to hooking in with your social media, your Google Ads, and the like. Reduced booking friction is important. That's really just about going to your website and just working out whether it's easy for people to book. And part of that's coming back to your cross-domain tracking, is to understanding while people are clicking on the book now button, what might be holding them up from actually making a booking. And mobile experience is critical. We know that over half the people, probably more like about 2/3 of people, are likely to be coming from for the first time on a mobile device. The next issue is trust. Reviews are really important for trust. People want to know. They're used to doing their research now. Particularly people probably sub 40 will do a lot of research around this sort of issue, around reviews. What I recommend is a systematic process for gaining reviews, and that's generally a two-step process. The first is to have some way of systematically reaching out to people once they've experienced what you're providing, and asking them whether they had a good time, whether they liked it, any suggestions where they could prove it, that sort of thing. And then if you get the positive response back, then you have a second follow-up with that to say, would you mind doing a Google review or a review on another website? That means that what you're doing is systematically making sure that you've got good reviews. And if you're not getting good reviews, it's good for business anyway, because you're starting to get some understanding about what it is that you need to do to make sure that you are getting a good experience from people. You can display those, if there's a Google reviews, you can display those on your website. There is, if you, for example, have a WordPress website, there's plugins to go into WordPress that enables you to pull those reviews and your ranking onto the website. They even allow you to filter out the bad ones. So if you've got your bad ones, so that's a really good thing to show trust. The Google Business Profile, which carries the reviews, is really important for local search. So if people are searching you because you're in a particular location, then making sure that you've got reviews on the Google Profile, and in fact you're publishing content on the business profile as well, is important for getting on the Google map and those sorts of things. The other thing that pops up is where someone's taken over a business, and some of the reviews may be in the distant past sort of thing, and particularly if it's a Google ad review, Google review, you can't get rid of them. So you do have to make sure that you're getting a current set of reviews and not necessarily rely on something from previously. And then what I put in the short-term bucket here is leveraging partnerships. So this is sort of, in sense, slightly less digital, but digital comes into the story. So working with businesses in your area where you can put together a package of an experience and a stay, for example, it means that you're cross-selling between the two businesses. Someone who's considering your accommodation, you can talk to them about the experience that they could go to when they're there, or vice versa. And if there's an event running in near you, then event-based landing pages are potentially a good way of going, where you can reach out to someone providing an event and say, hey, look, we're doing providing accommodation. Perhaps you'd like to, and we've built a page just specifically for your event, and sort of encourage the event to link to your particular page. So those reciprocal website links are great for driving user traffic. They're also great from an SEO point of view, as long as they're not overly done. And I think obviously partnerships are great for face-to-face relationship building. One of the things that comes up a bit is situations where we had someone wanting to book in, but we were full, so we sent them to another accommodation provider. And it's important then that part of your marketing is actually marketing to people who are in your industry, who may well be direct competitors, but if they're aware of what you're providing and your website tells a good story about it, then it's a good source of potentially some early wins. And as I said, it strengthens both as SEO for both parties. If you've got a sort of a big event that's going on, that can be really a good opportunity for, say, an accommodation provider. And it's potentially a low cost, high return exercise, because you're building personal contacts and referral contacts with people.
Digital insights for different business types.
So I'm just going to run through a few different types of businesses and just cover some issues that around those, and some of these I've sort of touched on, and they're applicable across many different type of business, but I'll go sort of work it by business type. So the accommodation side of things, cross-domain tracking, I think is a really important thing to jump onto and get that sorted out. Consistent storytelling about your story, and that really comes down to not just showing nice pictures of empty rooms. If you look at, say, for example, some of the photography on the Visit Victoria website, there's almost always a person in it. So getting a person in, the type of person that you're targeting on the accommodation, have them in the story. If they're younger or older, if it's a retreat, if it's a group of people, show that experience. Don't just let people assume that how they could use your particular accommodation based upon a nice looking photo. Remarketing is really important, because people are going to do their research, and you want to, and they're not necessarily going to make a decision on the spot. Life gets in the way for people. They do their research, but their bookings may be some period later down the track. You've got an opportunity to keep in front of them for when they do make the booking later down the track. Packages with our businesses I've just talked about. That's, I think, important with to work with experience and event providers, and to work on non-brand SEO. Now I'll come to an example about that in another section shortly, but I'll just keep that one there for a minute. If we're looking at wineries, celladors, distilleries, again, it's a similar sort of thing. It's like nice pictures of the vineyard and that sort of thing look lovely, but they don't tell the story. If your cellador has some level of performance associated with it, you get to talk to the winemaker versus a salesperson or whatever it might be. You learn about the history of it, everything. You need to capture that experience and give people the idea of that experience. If it's for couples, if for corporate groups, those sorts of things, tell the story about that, how people are enjoying it. Cross-selling between service lines, I think, is really important. So if someone comes to the cellar door. You want to try and maybe cross-sell them into a wine club, or if they're a wine club, you want to encourage them to come to the cellar door and work on that. And segment your surf line if they're interstate or if they're local. If they're in your region or they're in Melbourne, that sort of thing. You then can come up with different ways of encouraging those people to come back and experience what you have to offer. The targeting particular cultural groups, particular age groups and demographics, I think, and giving them the idea of how they would enjoy the experience at your cellar door, for example, is really important, I think. One of the things I also talk about is quickly is sort of slightly tangential, but it's online pricing. So online, people really like a bargain. And so what I would encourage you to think about is thinking about your online pricing, effectively increasing your online pricing to allow you to do deeper discounts and run frequent specials about, the Easter special, the Mother's Day special, the Father's Day special, the Christmas special, that sort of thing, because people appreciate a bargain. With hospitality, the social media content needs to really match your business objectives. So what are you trying to do? Are you trying to get in more people off peak? Are you trying to get small groups, large groups, those sorts of things? Just bear with me a second. So that's you sort of need to work around that. We see a bit of stuff where people are publishing general content about things to do in the region, but they don't really sort of say, well, come along to this particular event and you can experience, we're part of the experience type of thing. So working on that. I've really covered the experience rather than just photos. And outreach to people. So don't just allow them to, just don't wait for them to come to the website. You need to, you need to use targeted social media, for example, to get out to people. One of the things that I really like doing is using YouTube ads. They're great for targeting audiences based upon people's behavior online. So typically you find the sort of websites on the internet that you think your target audience would go to. You can then give that list of websites to the Google system, and it will then target the people who have either been to that website or who have characteristics similar to people who go to that website, because Google has a massive amount of data on us as users. So they're able to do that sort of matching, and we find it very effective. These are the sort of ads where you can click off after 5 seconds, and you'd think most people do that, but you'd be very surprised to hear that somewhere usually between about maybe 18 and 65% of people will watch one of those ads for at least 30 seconds or more. So they're an effective way of raising brand awareness so that people can later down the track come and find you on Google. Experiences are about, again, storytelling, not just what they do, but how they can do it, how they can experience, use the experience, how they can use the facilities, encourage people to give them the idea they can do user-generated content. Then using short-form video, target audiences, use that across multiple platforms, focus your video content around a strong first 5-second hook, and then educate them about what you have to offer after that. Events and weddings, I think partnerships are really important related to that. If you're running a wedding venue, a wedding option that doesn't have accommodation associated with that, then partnering with an accommodation provider would be great. And and vice versa, the accommodation provider partnering with wedding celebrants or wedding providers. Weddings always have heaps of video and photographic content. Working with your clients to get that user-generated content onto social is important. Using targeted social to target people who are engaged in a particular locations, that sort of thing, and niche SEO. So you're looking at some of what search terms relate to wedding are we best to try and target. And then this one's an interesting one: camps and group accommodation. So we're working with a couple of camps with group accommodation options where they've got good peak bookings, but their off-peak occupancy isn't what they'd like it to do. So let's think about who would use it in the off-peak. Let's create stories around that. Let's use targeting to get to those people and tell them the story about the off-peak opportunity. The other way to go is to go back to people who have already using that accommodation for one type of experience and perhaps telling them about their off-peak opportunity. So, for example, if it was like a school's accommodation type thing during school term, but you're offering something in school holidays, then let people know who've been for the school experience about the school holiday opportunity. And then obviously event partnerships where there's lots of people turning up to the area that need accommodation. Then the group accommodation thing, it's a good opportunity for group accommodation, and creating dedicated landing pages that relate to that particular opportunity rather than just relying on the homepage.
Quick wins and where to start.
We're nearing the end here, but so here's some things that you can do straight up that I'd suggest you consider. First is check your tracking. Make sure that you're actually measuring what's happening on your website. Check your visibility. Get your incognito browser out, Chrome incognito, and search for your business and search for a number of different search terms, keywords that you think that you would like to rank for, and just see how you come up on Google. Do the same thing on ChatGPT in particular, but also Claude's probably another one that's really rising at the moment in terms of its usage. So try that out as well. Capture stories. So the capturing stories, I can't stress enough. And this is where, if you sit down with a blank piece of paper and you try to think, what are we going to tell people about? It's a really hard exercise. But if you do a situation where you go, someone's just been to your, maybe you're providing accommodation, someone's just left, and you feel really good about, they've said some nice things, they've had a great time, you feel really good about it, you go, this is what we were in the business for doing, that sort of thing. What I recommend you do is you get out your mobile phone and you record that information about that particular experience. Try and get in the habit of taking photos, taking videos, helping out your clients by doing that, but saying, would you mind if I do one on my phone as well? Capture the stories, because if you don't capture the stories while they're happening, then they're really hard they're lost, they're gone. They're really hard for you to get that back to do your social media. So just start by getting in the habit of capturing those stories. One of the things I really find is really good is actually talk with somebody. So have someone sit down with you and talk about the stories, even if they are in sort of somewhere in the past, and just get someone independent of the business to talk to you and just ask about the stories. And those will come out and you can record them. I do a lot on Zoom like this, and we record them, and then we can then turn them into blogs and social media content, and they're really useful. Really work on targeting, thinking about your target audiences. Who is it that your prime target? Who is booking now that you need to get more of? Who is not booking now that you need to get in? And talk to them and think about how you can explain to them how to use what you offer, not just telling them what you have. Commit to a story rhythm. Think about how much time you can spend on doing content, website content, social media content. If it's an hour a month, then it's an hour a month. Work around that, but keep it consistent. And then look at posting. Once you've got this, capturing the story contents, then start to take that into some posting on social media. So the two processes are separate. Capture the stories now. Don't worry necessarily about how you're going to use it. Worry about how you're going to use it in the second step, which is the posting, but use paid posting so you can get to your target audience. Just a word on AI. We use AI extensively in our practice. It's really, really important. But a lot of people who are anti it think it's about just using it sort of like throwing out a piece of a request for some information and getting it to search the internet and bring in something. We use it for that, but we also use it for things like researching target audiences, understanding the interests and motivations of different target audiences, particularly different demographic groups that you may not be part of. We have an extensive Chinese and Indian community in Melbourne. So, should we be, and that me as an Anglo-Saxon probably doesn't understand necessarily their motivations, but we can work on that. We can then do things like using our, recorded stories that we've captured and give that to the AI and say, write me some copy around that. Write a blog piece, write me some content for my social media, or tell me some ideas about how I could use that. I want to do a video. Write me a video script. We can get it to do things like analyze your competitor websites, and we can get it to do visuals. So you see that in my presentation today, just because for the fun of it, I've created the videos that I've created here are all AI videos that I've generated off Google VO, Gemini VO, and it's still got some way to go. You still need editing software, video editing software to make it really happen, but it is. It's getting there, and you can do some really interesting things with just still photography as well. So that's AI can really get a lot done for you. So just to wind up, we are the digital mentoring program is still going. It's available here to help you. What our the mentoring program involves, there's a quick form to fill out. Then I do a bit of research off the back of that. We have an hour or so's meeting to discuss the business, come up with a few ideas. I go away and do a bit more research. Then we have a second follow-up session where we perhaps look at more prioritising plans and actions from that research and from those discussions. So if you're interested in that, contact the Tourism East office and they'll be able to.
Thanks for coming to the webinar. It's now time is answer your questions.